At my husband's company, Gala, I sat down and saw my place card. Not my name. Not Rebecca. Just 4 words. Pathetic gold digger nobody. The laughter came immediately. A wave of snickers rising around the table. His colleagues leaning in, whispering to each other, their amusement too loud to be accidental. At the center of it all was his boss, a sharp-dressed woman with a smile that cut like glass. She looked at me the way someone might look at a stray animal wandering into a private party.
Smug.
Triumphant. Possessive. I could feel the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on me. I stood. My heart hammered, but my voice stayed steady. I leaned close to the CEO, who had been chuckling along, and whispered, "If I were you, I'd keep an eye on your stock prices." Later that evening, at a dinner party filled with venture capitalists and executives, the humiliation continued. A man turned to me with a polite smile. "And what do you do, Rebecca?" I opened my mouth to answer, but Ryan cut me off with a laugh. "Rebecca plays around with some consulting work from home. Nothing serious. Just something to keep her busy while I handle the real decisions." His words detonated in the elegant dining room like a grenade. Every glass, every fork seemed to rattle. I smiled at the table of investors and tech leaders, but inside me something cracked wide open. 6 months earlier, my playing around had exposed fraudulent accounting that saved a pension fund $12 million. The report I'd written was cited in 3 major financial publications. But in Ryan's version of reality, I was just keeping myself busy. The woman seated next to the venture capitalist leaned closer. She was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, one I knew too well. I dissected their financial statements line by line. She gave me a sympathetic smile. "How nice that you have time for little projects," she said. Her voice dripped with condescension so sweet it made my teeth ache. I wanted to tell her that my little projects had exposed more corporate fraud in 3 years than her compliance team had managed in a decade. But I didn't. Instead, I lifted my wine glass, swallowed the bitterness, and wondered when Ryan had started to see me as small. As an amateur. It hadn't happened overnight. 9 years earlier, Ryan and I had met in the university library during finals week. 2 broke kids buried under textbooks and debt. I sat there drilling formulas for my corporate finance exam when the sharp, relentless tapping of a pen beside me drove me to the edge. "You know that rhythm you're tapping matches the opening of that awful pop song, right?" I whispered. He looked up. His grin was sheepish, boyish, disarming.
"Saudi."
"I think better with background music. Even imaginary background music." "I'm Rebecca," I said, annoyed but intrigued. "Ryan," he replied, sliding his chair a little closer. "And I think we might have a problem. You need silence. I need noise. Unless..." He paused, eyes dancing. "It's actually a perfect partnership. You bring the focus. I'll bring the chaos." That conversation didn't end until the library lights went dark. We discovered we both lived on instant ramen. We both dreamed of starting companies. We both believed mediocrity was the only unforgivable failure. Ryan wanted to revolutionize technology for business. I wanted to uncover the stories buried in financial statements. "Let's make a deal," I said as we walked across the empty campus. "Whatever happens after graduation, we support each other. No jealousy. No competition. Just partnership. Business partners for life," he promised, shaking my hand like it was a contract. And for a while, we kept that promise. When Ryan landed his first interview at a tiny tech startup, we celebrated with $3 champagne and stayed up all night rehearsing. I drilled him with every possible interview question until he could pitch the company's technology better than their own team. "They'd be crazy not to hire you," I told him, adjusting his tie in the cracked mirror of our bathroom. "And when you land your first big client, we're upgrading to champagne in real glass bottles," he said. My consulting firm started on our kitchen table because office space was a dream we couldn't afford. I specialized in equity analysis for smaller investors, catching the red flags big firms ignored or covered up. My days were buried in SEC filings, compensation reports, and spreadsheets stacked high with numbers. Our apartment turned into a war room of research. Papers covered every surface. The hum of my printer filled the nights. Ryan never complained. He'd bring me coffee at midnight, rub my shoulders, glance at the endless rows of numbers. "Catch any corporate criminals today?" He'd joke. "Actually, yes," I said one night. "This pharmaceutical company is hiding R&D losses in different divisions. Their investors have no idea how deep they're bleeding." "Sounds like fraud," he said. "Not technically illegal, but misleading. And when the truth comes out, it's going to cost people millions." 6 months later, it did. My report saved clients $4 million. When the stock collapsed, journalists quoted my analysis. My phone didn't stop ringing. Suddenly, investors wanted the woman who could see trouble before anyone else did. Back then, Ryan's pride was real. He introduced me at parties as the woman who took down corporations from our kitchen table. He said it with a smile, so wide it made me believe he meant every word. But somewhere along the way, that pride turned into something else. And tonight, sitting at a table full of people who believed I was nothing but his accessory, I realized just how far we had fallen from that first promise under the library lights. We were supposed to be building something together. 2 people, equal weight on each side of the scale. That's how it felt in the beginning. Each of us carrying the same dream, the same hunger, the same relentless belief that together we could create a life that mattered. Ryan's career began to climb fast. One promotion after another. First a junior analyst, then product management, then a string of roles with more authority, more money, more access to the rooms that once seemed untouchable to us. I watched him transform from the nervous kid I used to coach through interview questions into a man who spoke in boardrooms with steady confidence, a man who could navigate the politics of power without losing his footing. It was intoxicating to see. Then one night, he came home, eyes shining like I'd never seen before. "I got it," he said, breathless. "Executive Strategy Director at Reinhardt Tech." I hugged him, the excitement radiating off his body into mine. "That's incredible. When do you start?" 3 weeks, he said, pausing. "But there's a catch. We'll need to relocate to Seattle. I know that means rebuilding everything for you, but Rebecca, this opportunity, it could change everything for us." I didn't hesitate, not even for a second. "Of course we're moving. This is exactly what we've been working for." It meant shutting down everything I'd built, referring loyal clients to competitors, terminating my office lease, packing up years of work into cardboard boxes, and starting again from zero. The financial loss was staggering, but none of it mattered. Watching Ryan step into that new world, watching him finally be recognized the way I always believed he deserved, it felt worth the sacrifice. What I couldn't see then was how success would start to warp the foundation of what we'd promised each other. The man who once sought my opinion on every decision began leaving me out of the process entirely. He'd come home late, his briefcase heavy with documents, his mind still entangled in meetings and mergers. I'd offer thoughts, insights, analysis, pieces of my expertise that I knew had value. He'd smile, dismissive, like a teacher humoring a child. "The complexities are different at this level," he'd say. Or, "This isn't really comparable to your boutique consulting work." Each time, the words landed like a quiet cut, a reminder that in his eyes, my world was shrinking while his was expanding. And then Tyler Jameson entered the picture. It was around our 5th wedding anniversary. Ryan's new direct supervisor. Suddenly her name filled every conversation. Tyler's methodologies. Tyler's industry connections. Tyler's visionary leadership. He spoke about her the way someone speaks about an idea that changes everything they thought they knew. "She's brilliant," he told me one night, his voice electric. "She reframes problems in ways that make entire solutions obvious. It's like she sees the whole board while the rest of us are still learning the rules." I force myself to smile. She sounds like an incredible mentor. We should invite her for dinner. "I'd love to meet the person who's meant so much to your career." His answer was too quick. "Tyler's schedule is impossible. High-level meetings, conferences, strategy sessions. She doesn't really do social dinners." And just like that, Tyler became a ghost that lived in our marriage. Unseen but everywhere. her influence seeping into every word Ryan spoke, every decision he made, until it felt like there was no room left for me. The man who once introduced me with pride as the woman who caught corporations in lies now minimized my work as too narrow, too small to be relevant. I was no longer the partner he relied on. I was the distraction he tolerated. Then came the final test. Reinhard offered Ryan a promotion that was staggering. Global expansion. International travel. A salary that eclipsed everything we'd ever earned combined. "This is it," he said, sliding the offer across the table to me like a gift. "Our moment. Everything we've worked toward since the beginning." I looked at the numbers, the titles, the possibilities. Then I asked the question that had been forming in the back of my throat. What about my consulting practice? I've rebuilt my client base here. Walking away again would destroy all of that. "You could scale back," he said gently, but his tone was final. "Just until I get established. Once I'm secure, you'll have the freedom to be completely self-sufficient with your projects." That word, projects, it landed like an insult dressed in politeness. So when I sat at that dinner party later, listening to Ryan laugh about my playing around, while strangers nodded as if they understood exactly how trivial I was, I realized the truth. Our partnership wasn't equal. Maybe it never had been. I excused myself quietly, walked to the bathroom, and stared at the woman in the mirror. For the first time in years, I didn't recognize her. I remembered the woman I used to be. The one who once saved pension funds from collapsing under fraudulent investments. She was still inside me, buried under years of compromise, softened by making myself small so Ryan could stand taller. That night, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, I made a decision. I was done shrinking. Done pretending my voice didn't matter. The foundation we'd built together was cracking beneath us, but I still had the skills, the fire, the will to build something new. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 3 days after that humiliating dinner party, Ryan burst through the front door, his tie half undone, his phone buzzing in his hand. He looked like he'd been lit from the inside. "Tyler wants to meet you," he announced. I froze, coffee cup suspended halfway to my lips. After months of hearing about Tyler's brilliance, her vision, her leadership, suddenly she wanted to meet me? She asked about me? Ryan nodded, a grin stretched wide, though there was something uneasy in his eyes. "She said it's time she met the woman behind the man. She believes in knowing her team's families. Says it creates better workplace dynamics." The party was set at the Meridian Hotel. I spent far too long agonizing over what to wear, like I was preparing for an exam I hadn't studied for. I settled on a navy dress, professional but warm, paired with the pearl earrings Ryan gave me years ago. Looking in the mirror, I tried to see confidence. Tried to see a woman ready to leave an impression, not just on anyone, but on the woman who seemed to hold my husband's career and maybe even his loyalty in her hands. Tyler saw us the moment we stepped into the ballroom. She didn't walk across the room. She glided, like someone who already owned it. Tall, sharp, perfectly put together, she wore a black suit so precise it looked carved onto her body. I knew in an instant it cost more than my monthly income. "Rebecca," she said, her voice pitched to carry just far enough for colleagues nearby to hear. Her handshake was firm, her smile dazzling, but her eyes scanned me, cataloged me, assessed me in 3 silent seconds. "Finally, Ryan talks about you constantly. You must be so proud of how well he's doing here. We absolutely treasure him." "Thank you," I replied evenly. "He loves working here." "And you work from home, don't you? How quaint. Must be wonderful to have so much flexibility."
Quaint.
One word, precise as a scalpel. She had managed to cut my career down to size in a single syllable. I held her gaze. "I run a financial consulting practice specializing in equity analysis." "How interesting." She smiled wider, a flash of teeth that didn't reach her eyes. "Ryan mentioned you help small investors with their little portfolios. That's so sweet."
Sweet.
Flexible.
Quaint.
Each word wrapped in silk, but meant to diminish. "Ryan's lucky," she added. "Not every woman could be so adaptable with her career." The entire exchange lasted maybe 5 minutes. But when it ended, I felt hollow. Like I had been dissected under a bright light while she stayed spotless in her black suit. Tyler had reduced my work to a hobby, my expertise to helpfulness, my identity to a convenience for Ryan, all while smiling like she was paying me a compliment. "She's impressive," I said later in the car, testing Ryan's reaction. "Isn't she?" His voice was almost reverent. "She just sees things others don't. She's been incredible for me." 2 weeks later, the first message arrived. "Happy holidays, Rebecca. Hope you're staying busy with your projects while Ryan handles all the exciting developments here at Reinhardt. So grateful to have such a dedicated team member. Tyler." I stared at it for a full minute. On the surface, polite, pleasant. Underneath, it stripped my work down to projects while elevating Ryan's role as essential to her exciting developments. When I showed Ryan, he barely glanced at it. That's nice of her. Tyler's thoughtful about including families. But it didn't stop there. Valentine's Day. "Hope you and Ryan have a lovely evening. He's been working so hard on our new initiatives. You're so understanding about his dedication to excellence." Easter. "Thinking of you both during this special time. Ryan mentioned how supportive you are of his career. So wonderful that he has someone to keep him grounded. You're just so practical." Every message was a paper cut. Small.
Precise.
Enough to sting, but never enough to accuse her of malice. It was an art form. Backhanded compliments packaged as kindness. Am I being oversensitive? I asked Ryan after the Easter message. I felt deflated, scraped raw. "Tyler's just being friendly," he said, brushing it away. "She sends notes to all the spouses. You're reading too much into it." But I wasn't. My entire career had been built on recognizing patterns others ignored. And Tyler's pattern was undeniable. She was repositioning me, carefully, deliberately, from partner to appendage. And Ryan was buying it. The changes in him were undeniable. He came home with Tyler's opinions in his mouth, as if they were his own. We talked about renovations for the kitchen. Tyler says granite is outdated. Quartz is the future. I suggested a trip to Italy. His answer: "Tyler thinks European travel is overrated. Domestic markets have more to offer." The worst part wasn't that he quoted her. It was the way he spoke, as if her opinions were gospel. As if her authority extended beyond the boardroom and into the walls of our marriage. One night, I tried again. I brought up the industry reports I'd been studying. "The debt-to-equity ratios are worrying me. It looks like over-leveraging, the same signs we saw before the last correction." Ryan barely looked up from his phone. "Well, Tyler thinks fundamentals are stronger than they appear. She says people focusing on old metrics miss the bigger innovation picture." I stared at him. Tyler's not a financial analyst. This is my field. Tyler has an MBA from Wharton. 15 years in corporate strategy. She understands market dynamics. And just like that, he dismissed me completely. My years of analysis. My reports that saved millions. My expertise. All erased with a single comparison to Tyler's credentials. But Tyler's genius wasn't just in how she influenced Ryan's opinions. It was how she orchestrated my exclusion. Company events scheduled on nights she knew I had client deadlines. Invitations whispered late, almost as an afterthought. Each move subtle, calculated, surgical. I wasn't imagining it. Tyler wasn't just climbing higher. She was cutting me out of Ryan's world, one careful slice at a time. The invitations started small. Optional gatherings for spouses. Holiday mixers. Afternoon teas. Events I couldn't always attend because of client deadlines or reports that demanded my attention. Each time I declined, Tyler made sure Ryan heard her disappointment. "The other wives are so involved in our company culture," she cooed on speakerphone one evening, her voice carrying clear into the kitchen while I chopped vegetables. "Sarah Chin brings homemade cookies to every event. Michelle Rodriguez organized that beautiful charity drive. It really makes a difference when families show their commitment." The knife in my hand slipped against the cutting board. The message was sharp and unmistakable. I was failing. Not as a consultant, Not as a professional, but as a corporate wife. Tyler didn't stop there. She arranged team-building activities that excluded spouses altogether, then made sure Ryan came home raving about them. She organized this amazing escape room challenge. He'd say, beaming. So creative. Everyone had such a blast. But when other companies hosted events where I was invited, Ryan always had a reason not to go. Tyler needs me to review the quarterly projections at night, he'd explain, as if her requests carried the weight of gospel. It was subtle, methodical. I was being erased, not just from Reinhardt Tech, but from Ryan's world. Slowly repositioned as the stay-at-home spouse who didn't quite measure up to the ambitious corporate circle. My breaking point came one evening when I walked past his office door and heard her voice floating through the crack. "You have so much potential, Ryan. I see you moving into senior leadership within the next 2 years. But you need to surround yourself with people who understand that level of ambition. People who can match your drive and vision." "Rebecca is very supportive of my career," Ryan said, but his tone was weak, almost apologetic. "Of course," Tyler replied smoothly. "In her own way. But support and true partnership are different things. You need someone who elevates your thinking, who challenges you, who pushes you toward excellence. Someone who operates at your level." I froze in the hallway, my body rigid, my breath shallow. I was listening to the systematic dismantling of my marriage, spoken with the calm precision of a strategist planning a corporate acquisition. That night, I opened a new notebook and began writing. Every comment, every subtle manipulation, every strategic move. My training in pattern recognition told me exactly what was happening. Tyler wasn't just undermining me. She was executing a hostile takeover of my marriage. The most painful part wasn't her ambition. It was Ryan's blindness. He saw her manipulations as mentorship. He called her influence professional development. The man who once trusted my instincts couldn't recognize the most important analysis of all, that Tyler Jameson was destroying us from the inside out. The notebook sat hidden in my desk drawer the night Ryan came barreling through the front door, practically glowing with excitement. His energy filled the room, reminding me of the boy I'd met in the library years earlier. "Pack your best dress," he said, tossing his briefcase onto the couch like it weighed nothing. "We're going to the Reinhardt Tech annual Gala next Saturday." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing quarterly reports. "We're going to what?" "The Gala," he said, eyes gleaming. "Tyler specifically insisted you come this year. She says it's time you experience the full Reinhardt culture." That word, insisted, sent a chill racing down my spine. After months of being shut out, Tyler suddenly wanted me at the most important event of the year? She insisted? I repeated slowly. Ryan nodded, rifling through the closet with unusual enthusiasm. "She even told me it'll be especially memorable for both of us. Where's that green dress? The one you wore to Giovanni's." Tyler mentioned she's looking forward to seeing you in something elegant. My stomach twisted. Tyler remembered a dress from 2 years ago? Or Ryan had repeated it to her with such detail that it etched into her mind. Neither answer felt safe. The week before the gala felt surreal. Ryan was suddenly attentive again, almost like he was trying to resurrect the man he used to be. He brought me coffee in the mornings, asked about my clients with genuine interest. One night, he even pulled me into the living room, insisted we practice dancing, spinning me clumsily around the coffee table. "I want everything perfect for Saturday," he said, grinning like the old Ryan. "This could be the moment that changes our future." Despite my instincts screaming otherwise, I let myself hope. Maybe Tyler realized exclusion wasn't working. Maybe this was her olive branch, an acknowledgement that I wasn't going anywhere. I prepared with a focus I hadn't felt in months. A salon visit for nails and hair. A stylist's hands twisting my hair into an elegant updo. Hours spent reading industry news, memorizing Reinhardt's acquisitions, studying their blockchain project, so I could hold my own in conversation. For the first time in too long, I saw myself again. Not the supportive spouse, not the invisible wife, but the professional, the analyst, the woman who once commanded respect. When the night came, The Crestmore Hotel glittered under chandeliers that cast golden light across marble floors. Waiters weaved through the crowd with silver trays of champagne. Executives and their polished spouses filled the ballroom, laughter rising like music above the clink of crystal. I walked beside Ryan in my green dress, my hair perfectly styled, my confidence steady. For a moment I felt ready. But then we crossed the threshold of the ballroom, and something shifted. Ryan's hand pressed against the small of my back.
Not gently.
Not lovingly.
It felt staged. Performed.
As if he wasn't escorting his wife, he was presenting me. The moment we entered the ballroom, Ryan's gaze locked onto her. His body stiffened, his shoulders squaring as if some internal switch had flipped. "There she is," he murmured. I couldn't tell if it was meant for me, or for himself. Tyler moved toward us with the kind of confidence only power grants. The chandeliers caught the shimmer of her silver dress, every step deliberate, as if the entire room existed for her entrance. Her smile was wide.
Perfect. Performed.
"Rebecca, you actually came." The word actually was soft, almost playful. But beneath the velvet tone was a blade, sharpened to suggest my presence was unexpected. Optional. An afterthought. "Thank you for suggesting I join you," I answered smoothly, keeping my expression calm, professional. She tilted her head, the light glinting off diamond earrings. "Well, Ryan deserves to have his +1 here for such a special evening." +1. 2 syllables. A surgical cut. Not wife. Not partner. An accessory. Ryan's hand pressed against the small of my back. Firm. Tense. But he said nothing. No correction. No defense. "Let me show you to your table," Tyler said brightly, her voice raised just enough to carry across nearby conversations. "I've made sure you'll be seated with some truly fascinating people." She glided ahead, guiding us through the crowd like a hostess. I felt the eyes on us, the subtle shift of attention as we moved deeper into the room. Couples adjusted place cards, laughter floated over champagne glasses, and everywhere, the quiet hum of corporate celebration buzzed. Finally, Tyler stopped at a round table near the center. "Here we are." "Ryan, you're right here at the head table, of course." My chest tightened. "We're not sitting together?" Tyler's smile didn't falter. "Oh, didn't Ryan explain? Executives sit at the leadership table. Spouses have their own seating arrangements." Her tone carried the authority of protocol, though I knew it was something else entirely. Another wall, another wedge. I turned to Ryan, waiting for him to object, to push back, to show even a flicker of surprise. Instead, he was already sliding into his chair beside her, his focus locked on Tyler's outline of the evening. "Your place card should be right here," Tyler said, scanning the table with mock concern. I bent to look. One name, then another. Faces I didn't recognize, marketing coordinators, assistants, managers. And then I saw it. The card in front of me was cream, edged in gold, the calligraphy elegant, deliberate. But the words carved into the paper were a knife straight to the heart. Pathetic gold digger nobody. For a moment, the world blurred. I blinked. Read it again. My pulse roared in my ears. No mistake. This wasn't a scribble of anger, some crude joke. This was deliberate. Printed. Designed. The first laugh was quiet, a ripple at the edge of the table. Then came another. And another. Shocked gasps, whispered amusement, smothered giggles. "Oh my God, did you see her card? She's still clinging to him? After all this time?" The laughter grew, spreading like wildfire across the ballroom. Heads turned. Smiles twisted into smirks. Within moments, half the room was staring at me or laughing at me. I looked for Ryan, waiting for anger, for outrage, for even the smallest sign that he was as blindsided as I was. But he wasn't. He stared at his water glass as if it were a lifeline. His jaw tight, his face carefully blank. Not shock. Not fury. Just discomfort. The posture of someone caught in something he already knew was coming. "Ryan," I whispered. "One last chance." His eyes never lifted. The silence was deafening. And in that instant, the truth hit harder than the humiliation. This wasn't just Tyler's game. Ryan was part of it. His silence wasn't weakness, it was consent. The man I had sacrificed for. The man I had trusted for 9 years. The man I had defended through every storm. He had abandoned me in the cruelest way possible, publicly. Around me, faces blurred. Some laughed. Some looked away in pity. But none of it mattered anymore. Because something inside me shifted. They thought they'd reduce me to nothing. A joke. A nobody. But I knew the truth. The woman holding that card wasn't weak. She wasn't finished. She was dangerous. And Tyler Jameson had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I straightened my back, lifted my chin, and walked toward the exit with measured steps. The laughter followed me, but I didn't flinch. As I passed the CEO, who chuckled like Tyler's cruelty was the punchline of the year, I leaned close enough for only her to hear. "I'd check your stock prices if I were you," I whispered. The taxi ride home was silent, except for the sound of my own tears slipping down my face. The driver's eyes flicked toward me in the rear view, curious, maybe concerned. A woman in an elegant dress, pearls still gleaming, makeup streaked with tears. But I said nothing until we reached my driveway. "Thank you," I whispered, pressing bills into his hand. Ryan's car wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. He was still at the gala, celebrating, toasting, laughing with Tyler. The house felt alien when I walked inside. Smaller, like it belonged to someone else's life. I spent all of Sunday in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over. The card, the laughter, Ryan's silence. But by evening, something hardened inside me. The woman they thought they humiliated? She wasn't pathetic. She wasn't nobody. She was a predator they hadn't seen coming. Monday morning, I sat in my office, staring at the black reflection of my laptop screen. For the first time in years, I saw her again. The woman who once saved pension funds from fraud, the analyst who hunted deception for a living. My fingers moved with certainty across the keys. Passwords flowed back to me. Accounts unlocked. Databases opened like doors I thought I'd closed forever. Bloomberg, Edgar, filing archives, market analysis platforms. The first document I pulled was Reinhardt Tech's 10K. Line by line, page by page, I dissected it with precision. And then I saw it. Stock options. Grants dated suspiciously close to announcements guaranteed to spike prices. Technically legal, but strategically dirty. And every approval carried one signature. Tyler Jameson. I whispered to myself, almost smiling.
Sloppy.
Overconfident. Sloppy. By Tuesday, I had enough evidence to write a regulatory complaint. But complaints take time. Months. I wanted results now. So, I crafted something else. 3 hours later, under the username EquityWatchdog47, I published a post that would ignite like fire.
Charts. Graphs.
Citations. Precise analysis exposing Reinhardt's suspicious practices. Patterns executives thought no one would ever see. Red flags at Reinhardt Tech. I titled it. The post went live at 6 a.m. sharp on Wednesday, just in time for the market to open at BY noon on Wednesday. My post had caught fire. 3 major investment forums had picked it up. 2 financial blogs cited my analysis by name. The numbers were climbing in real time, and I felt the rush of momentum building behind me. That evening, the first message landed in the secure inbox I'd created. "Whoever you are, thank you." The note was short, typed with urgency. "I've suspected Reinhardt's numbers for months, but couldn't prove it. Your analysis is flawless. There's more where that came from if you're interested." A concerned insider. Attached files pulsed at the bottom of the screen. My hands trembled as I opened them. Internal emails. Meeting notes. Phrases jumped out like flashing red lights. Optimize quarterly reporting, delay expenses, maximize stock price impact. And then, the dagger, an email thread with Tyler's name attached, discussing announcement timing with surgical precision, deliberately syncing them with executive option grants.
Proof.
Written in her own words. Thursday morning brought something darker. Another anonymous forward. A screenshot from Reinhardt's internal Slack channel. Did you all see Rebecca's face when she found her place card? Priceless face with tears of joy. Can't believe you actually did it. Savage. And then Ryan's name. She needed to understand her place. Mission accomplished. She won't be bothering us with her professional insights anymore. The timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Saturday. Barely 2 hours after I'd left the Crestmore in tears. While I was unraveling in the back of a cab, Tyler was bragging. Ryan was laughing. My humiliation had been entertainment. I saved the screenshot. Added it to the growing file. A pattern was emerging. Tyler's arrogance wasn't confined to private cruelty. It infected her professional decisions too. Careless, reckless, dangerous. By Friday morning, I was ready. I posted again. This time, the headline cut deeper. Culture and conduct, when leadership failure extends beyond numbers. I built it with evidence. Emails, Slack screenshots, hard data stitched together with razor-sharp analysis. The response was instant. Investors reacted like gasoline meeting flame. Journalists started calling Reinhardt's PR team. Analysts downgraded the stock. Regulators opened inquiries. I sat in my office, coffee cooling beside me, watching the chaos unfold in real time. My pulse steadied with each headline, each stock drop, each analyst who echoed the questions Tyler had mocked me for even raising. By late afternoon, Reinhardt tech stock had plunged 12%. The company scrambled out a statement promising a comprehensive internal review. I knew exactly what that review would uncover. Tyler's fingerprints were smeared across every questionable transaction. And then the floodgates opened. Emails poured in. Employees, former staff, vendors, all with stories, evidence, confessions. One message stopped me cold. I'm a junior accountant at Reinhardt. Tyler Jameson pressured us for months to manipulate quarter-end numbers. I've been documenting everything in secret. I was too scared to come forward until your posts. I've filed a complaint with the SEC. Thank you for giving us a voice. By Saturday night, exactly 1 week after the gala, I poured myself a glass of wine and looked back on what I'd set in motion. Reinhardt was under federal investigation. 3 regulatory bodies were circling. Tyler's reputation was collapsing under the weight of her own arrogance. The pathetic gold digger nobody had triggered the biggest corporate scandal in the tech world that year. And I was just getting started. Ryan hadn't come home. LinkedIn told me he was managing crisis communications. I wondered if it had crossed his mind that the wife he dismissed had become the anonymous analyst dismantling his career. As I closed my laptop that night, I felt it, professional satisfaction.
Sharp.
Electric. The equity watchdog was alive again. Hungrier than ever. The truth had gained momentum, rolling downhill with unstoppable force. All I had to do was keep pushing. Sunday morning, the call came. My secure line lit up at 7:23 a.m. This is Marcus Chin from the Wall Street Journal. Am I speaking with Equity Watchdog 47? His tone was cautious, but urgent. Your Reinhardt analysis has made waves. We'd like to expand your findings for a front-page story. I'd been waiting for this. What kind of expansion? We've independently verified most of your documentation. Our team uncovered additional evidence supporting your claims. We want to run a full exposé, but we need your material to make it airtight. 20 minutes later, I'd sent him files that turned his article into an arsenal. The journal's credibility would amplify my work beyond anything I could do alone. Monday morning's headline detonated like a bomb. Tech darling Reinhardt under federal investigation for accounting irregularities. The piece laid everything bare. My analysis. Their independent findings. Tyler's name appeared 17 times, each reference damning. By 10 a.m., Reinhardt's stock collapsed another 18%. Trading halted twice. My coffee tasted like victory. At 11:47 a.m., the first alert about Tyler flashed across my screen. Reinhardt Tech executive Tyler Jameson placed on administrative leave pending investigation. I screenshot it. Saved it in a folder I labeled Justice Served. At 2 p.m., I heard Ryan's key in the door. His footsteps were heavy, dragging. His briefcase hit the floor with a thud. Rebecca. His voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard in years. In here, I called, eyes still on the market updates. He appeared in my doorway looking wrecked. Hair undone. Tie loose. Suit rumpled. His face carried 5 years of aging in 5 days. "We need to talk," he said, sinking into the chair across from me without asking. "About what?" "About Tyler. About the investigation. About everything happening at work." He dragged both hands across his face. "It's bad, Rebecca. Really bad." I minimized my screen. "How bad?" "The SEC is launching a formal investigation. FBI agents seized documents from Tyler's office this morning. Rumors are swirling about criminal charges." He looked at me, desperate. "I've been working with her for 2 years. If they find evidence of fraud, anyone tied to her decisions could be implicated. That includes me." "That sounds serious." "It is serious." His voice cracked. "My career could be over. Everything we've built could vanish." He reached across my desk, trying to take my hand. "I need you, Rebecca. I need your expertise. You're the smartest person I know in financial investigations.
Help me. Please."
Help me understand what they'll be looking for." The irony stung like acid. The man who mocked my work now begging for it. "Why not ask Tyler?" I asked softly. "Doesn't she have everything under control?" He gave a bitter laugh. "Tyler's unraveling. Blaming everyone. Claiming she followed industry standards. But Rebecca, some of the documents, I think she knew exactly what she was doing. That's securities fraud. I know what it is." He exhaled, shoulders sagging.
"I'm terrified."
"For the first time in my life, I'm scared for my career. My future." I studied his face. I saw the fear. The cracks. For a fleeting second, sympathy flickered. But then I remembered the laughter. The silence. The betrayal. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" "Help me distance myself from Tyler's decisions. Review my documents. Show me what might look bad to investigators." He swallowed hard. "I know I haven't been the best husband. I know I didn't value your skills. But we're a team, right? Partners for life." His words echoed, the same words he'd once spoken in a university parking lot, full of hope. But tonight they felt hollow. Contaminated. "When was the last time you treated us like partners, Ryan?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "When was the last time you asked my opinion? Valued my expertise? Defended me when someone attacked me?" His face paled as the truth landed. "Rebecca, if this is about the gala, it's about everything, Ryan." My voice was steady, sharper than it had been in months. "The gala was just the final confirmation of what we've become." I pulled open my desk drawer. Inside, a manila folder I'd prepared for this exact moment. Apartment listings. Notes from consultations with divorce attorneys. Financial projections outlining exactly how much my consulting business could generate once I stopped treating it like a side project. Ryan's brow furrowed as he opened it. "What is this?" His tone said he already knew. "My exit strategy." I slid the top document across the desk. A signed consulting contract with a hedge fund, worth more than his entire annual salary. 3 former clients are ready to bring me on full-time. My reputation for precision, for integrity, it never disappeared. I just buried it. "For you." His hands shook as he scanned the numbers. "You're leaving me." "I'm saving myself," I said quietly. "There's a difference." He pressed his palms against his knees, searching for words. "But Tyler's investigation. My career. Everything is falling apart. Tyler's investigation exists because someone with my skills decided to look closely. Her downfall is the result of her arrogance. Your downfall?" I met his eyes. "That's because you chose loyalty to a corrupt mentor over respect for your wife." Something flickered in his face. A crack, an awakening too late to matter. You know something about this investigation, don't you?" I shut my laptop with deliberate calm and stood. I know the truth always surfaces when someone with the right expertise starts digging.
His voice strained.
"Rebecca, what did you do?" I folded a blouse into my suitcase with clinical precision. I reminded everyone that the so-called pathetic gold digger nobody from the Gala holds a PhD in financial analysis and 10 years of exposing corporate fraud. His eyes widened as the pieces fell into place. I walked past him, grabbed another armful of clothes. I did what I should have done years ago. I stopped hiding. You can't just leave. He followed me into the bedroom, desperation etched across his face. We can work through this. Can we? I folded another shirt. When were you planning to start respecting my expertise? After Tyler's trial? After your career limped back from scandal? After you finally decided I was worth defending? He sat heavily on the bed, shoulders caved in. Smaller than I'd ever seen him. I know I messed up. I should have said something at the gala. But Tyler told me it was just a joke, that you'd understand. I froze mid-pack. Turned to face him. Tyler told you about the place card in advance. His silence was confirmation. She showed you the card before the event. You knew. My voice cracked, but I didn't falter. You knew I was walking into that humiliation, and you said nothing. His lips trembled. She said it would be funny, that you'd laugh later. I stared at him, searching for the man I once loved. Did you actually believe that? Or did you just not care enough to stop it? His eyes fell to the carpet. He couldn't answer. That was answer enough. I zipped the suitcase and carried it toward the door. On the counter, I left a note I'd been composing in my head for weeks. Ryan, it wasn't the insult that broke us. It was your silence. The woman you dismissed is the same woman who dismantled your mentor's empire. Next time, remember this. Underestimating people has consequences. I signed it simply, Rebecca. Walking out of that house felt like stepping into sunlight after years of shadow. My phone buzzed in my purse. A news alert. Former Reinhardt executive Tyler Jameson under criminal investigation for securities fraud. The equity watchdog was wide awake now. And she was only getting started. The apartment I found felt like the opposite of everything that home had become. Light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. The hardwood floors gleamed, untouched by years of arguments and silence. The kitchen was small, efficient, perfect for someone rebuilding a career instead of hosting dinners for people who never respected her. It took one afternoon to move in. 9 years of marriage distilled into 6 boxes. Everything I truly wanted fit in the back of my car. I hung my diplomas above my new desk. Northwestern PhD, Certified Fraud Examiner. Awards I'd once been proud of before I buried them under Ryan's ambitions. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked different already. Straighter shoulders, clearer eyes, a mouth no longer softened by apology, but set in resolve. Welcome to your new life, Rebecca, I whispered. Tuesday morning, the call came. Patricia Morrison, Whitfield Capital. Her voice was brisk, no small talk. Rebecca, I've followed your work for years, especially your recent analysis of tech sector irregularities. We need you as our new research director. The starting package is $200,000. For the first time in a long time, I smiled, not polite, not forced. Real. Plus bonuses tied to fun performance, Patricia said. I almost dropped my coffee mug. You want to hire me? Full-time. We don't just want to hire you, Rebecca, she replied. We want to build an entire research division around your analytical approach. You have a gift seeing cracks before they spread. Our investors need that now more than ever. 3 weeks later, I stepped through the revolving glass doors of Whitfield Capital's headquarters. Sunlight poured through walls of glass, catching the steel and marble like fire. I wore a navy suit that fit like it was tailored not just to my body, but to a version of myself I'd almost forgotten. Confident.
Certain. Whole.
On my desk sat a crisp box of business cards. Rebecca Chin, Director of Equity Research. I ran my thumb over the raised lettering. It felt like reclaiming a part of me I had buried years ago, waiting for someone else's approval that never came. My first assignment landed almost immediately. A biotech firm being considered for acquisition. I opened their reports with the same sharpness I once reserved for Reinhardt's filings. And within hours, the patterns emerged. Inflated revenue recognition, Costs shuffled around like cards in a rigged game. Projections built on sand. That afternoon, I sat across from Patricia in her glass-walled office. "This company is cooking their books," I told her. My voice carried no hesitation. "Their Phase 2 trial results don't justify the revenue they're projecting. They're burying failed development costs in subsidiary accounts."
Patricia studied me.
"How certain are you?" "Certain enough to stake my reputation on it." I slid a preliminary report across her desk. "Give me a week, and I'll give you a document that saves this firm millions." A slow smile curved across her face. "This is exactly why we hired you." Working again in an environment where my expertise mattered felt like oxygen after years of suffocation. In strategy meetings, people leaned forward when I spoke. Colleagues treated me like a partner, not a background prop. My analysis didn't just fill a seat. It shaped decisions worth tens of millions of dollars. At the monthly partners meeting, Patricia stood at the head of the table. "Rebecca's analysis just saved this firm from a catastrophic pharmaceutical investment," she announced. "Her diligence uncovered irregularities that would have cost us $40 million. The applause was real, genuine. It vibrated through me, louder than any humiliation I'd endured. For the first time in years, I was being recognized for what I actually did, not dismissed as someone who played with numbers. Then, a Thursday morning, as I scanned quarterly reports, a Google alert flashed on my screen. Former tech executive Tyler Jameson indicted on federal securities fraud charges. The photograph stopped me cold. Tyler stood outside a federal courthouse. Gone were the sharp suits, the polished aura of command. She wore flat shoes, a cheap blazer, her shoulders slumped. The woman who once towered over rooms now looked small, diminished, ordinary. The charges were devastating: falsifying investor disclosures, manipulating earnings reports, conspiracy to commit fraud. Each one carried prison time. None left space for redemption. I read the article twice, expecting triumph to surge through me. It didn't. Instead, a quiet satisfaction settled in. Justice had been served. Not by revenge, not by spectacle, but by truth, illuminated. Tyler's arrogance had created the trail that destroyed her. I'd simply held up the light. The comments were vicious, but predictable. "Isn't this the executive who humiliated that woman at the gala?" One reader wrote. "Karma has impeccable timing." Another cut deeper. "I worked at Reinhardt during Tyler's reign. She built a toxic culture where cruelty was called performance. Glad someone finally held her accountable." I sat back, staring at her photo. Tyler had built her entire identity on manipulation and fear. The same arrogance she used to undermine my marriage had made her reckless in her career. And now it was all gone. 6 months after leaving Ryan, the transformation was undeniable. The woman once labeled a gold-digging nobody now led investment decisions for one of the most respected funds in the city. My research shaped strategies worth hundreds of millions. Industry journals quoted my reports. Firms tried to recruit me monthly. But the professional victories were only part of the story. The bigger shift was internal. For the first time in years, I was living entirely on my own terms. My apartment reflected my taste, not the compromises of a marriage built on dismissal. My days revolved around work I chose, not someone else's ambitions. On Friday evenings, I'd sit on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the skyline shimmer. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no decoding conversations for hidden barbs. Just quiet, freedom,
Peace.
The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. A single signature to legalize what had already ended months earlier. I signed without hesitation. The past was over. The woman who walked away from Ryan's house was gone. In her place stood someone sharper, stronger, unashamed of her own brilliance. Ryan's signature wasn't the only thing inside the envelope. Tucked between the pages was a single sheet of paper. A handwritten note. "Rebecca, I know I can never undo the damage I caused. You were always the stronger partner in our marriage. I just wasn't smart enough to see it until it was too late. I hope you find the respect and recognition you deserve. Ryan." I read it once. then slid it into a file, not out of anger but out of finality. The words rang hollow after years of silence, after nights where his inaction spoke louder than any apology could. Still, I recognized the gesture. It was his attempt at closure. Ryan was already living his consequences. Unemployed. His professional name stained by association with Tyler. And now divorced from the one person whose expertise might have saved him, if only he'd chosen to value it. As I pressed my pen to the final line of the divorce papers, a rush of memory hit me. 2 young students sitting cross-legged on a dorm room floor, drinking dollar store champagne, building castles out of dreams. That partnership had been real.
Pure.
But fragile. The kind of love that thrived in simplicity, yet cracked under the weight of ambition and outside influence. Success had tested our foundation. Tyler had exploited its weaknesses. And we had failed. But from those ashes, something unexpected had risen. Not revenge. Not vindication. Something stronger. Resurrection. The woman Tyler had tried to erase was alive again, more powerful than either of them ever imagined. And the truth? It had done all the heavy lifting. All I'd done was give it space to breathe. I closed the file, exhaled, and let the silence of my apartment settle around me. This chapter was finished. And for the first time in years, I was not looking back.